Sup, everyone. Ryu here for the TheCouncilNetwork. Sorry about the fan in the back. It is extremely hot. But today we are here to review Xmen Apocalypse. I am solo for this review. Rip my emotional feelings. Anyways, I'm just going to come out and say it. This movie was enjoyable but had some issues. So we're going to talk about the good, we're going to talk about the bad, we're going to talk about Apocalypse. So careful for spoilers if you've yet to see the movie. I wouldn't really recommend that it's a must-see. It's kind of one of those, yeah, it was good to rent. It's not Batman versus Superman bad, so everyone who's saying it is, chill the hell out. It's got a lot of issues, I'm not gonna lie. Guess what? Let's get to the main cameo of the entire movie. That's your last warning for a spoiler. Hugh Jackman is in this movie as Wolverine. Biggest issue? It's not really like that big of a cameo, and it really, from marketing standpoint, felt like he was going to be in the movie much more, and pretty much the entire whole Weapon X, I guess I want to say scene, is built upon Wolverine being there and them getting the other X-Men out. So Stryker's presence, everything like that, it's really only there because of Wolverine, and it didn't give us an answer to what happened with Raven, Mystique, in the last movie when she sent him to the Weapon X program. We got no resolution for that, so that felt really, really cloggy and could have been done and executed a lot better, and that's probably one of my only downsides. I actually like Olivia Munn as Psylocke, which was very surprising. I had my this isn't going to end well cap on, but it actually was pretty damn good. Magneto, for me, stole the show from an emotional standpoint and from a character development standpoint. You understand why, if you've watched movies before. I'm sorry, there's some people who are just so negative about this movie. And it's not that I completely enjoyed it, but I don't completely hate it at the same time. I'm going to get to what I really didn't like, besides the Stryker thing. Magneto in this movie, we get to see him at full 100%. This is like 90s X-Men cartoon powers, and I'm really, really loving it. There was so much eye candy in this movie, and that's what you want from a summer blockbuster. It's kind of like one of those, I'm just going to go, I got extra money, I'm going to watch this. Quicksilver also stole the show yet again for a second time. Let me go back to the Magneto thing. He actually made a name for himself with a wife and kids. It's like 10 years after not First Class, Days of Future Past, and all the time jump wump. Probably shouldn't have been that much of a time jump because of the whole Mystique thing. That probably could have went somewhere with Mr. Sinister. I'll get to Mr. Sinister as well, or at least attempt to, what little bit there is. It's called the post-credit scene. Anyway, Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse. I didn't have a problem with his portray of Apocalypse so much. I have the problem with the way it was written. My main issue comes from everything we know about Apocalypse is he gets super duper, like, big. It's a comic book thing. That's what we come to expect. We did not get that with Apocalypse in this movie. Yes, we did get it in that, like, mental fight scene between Professor X and Apocalypse, but it was really a letdown from someone who really wanted to see it on the big screen and just get massively huge. I don't need that robot-looking body from the 90s. I just need him to get fucking huge in the middle of the fight. Now, the reason Storm is one of the big four baddies, I guess, you can sort of understand why. She's pretty much lied to, kind of brainwashed by Apocalypse. I mean, Apocalypse pretty much just has this power that he's getting all the hatred out of people and bringing it forward. Stan Lee was in the movie for like 10 seconds. Pretty good, cameo. I think he's done better ones, to be completely honest. I think, just coming off Civil War and him being in Civil War was a lot better. That's just me being me. Them killing Havoc, that was a letdown. I didn't want to see that happen. Cyclops in this movie was pretty good, not gonna lie. Beast and Mystique feels ruined from a comic book standpoint, but I didn't come for the exact comic book. I came for, what are you going to give me, Fox, and how are you going to sell it to me? And it was actually pretty decent. I can't say I didn't fully love it. I just can't say I fully hated it. I'm kind of in the middle. Nightcrawler looks like one of those 2003 emo kids with the side wolf for the hair. I just wasn't feeling it. That hair got to go, man. A little bit shorter, he would have been perfect, hair-wise. Everything else was absolutely fine with it. I'm trying to think, this is my biggest woe of the movie besides the third act. Let's just put it all together and call it the third act. That's where everything falls apart. You have this giant fight with Apocalypse, and it's really not much of a fight. It's more he's trying to steal Professor X's body, and so that way he can rule the world and like get all the mutants to come to him, so he doesn't have to kill like his quote unquote children, because that's how he looks at him, because he's like the first one, and this has always been Apocalypse's kind of thing. And it doesn't really take too much setup to understand that. It's a comic book movie, you're gonna get that right away. So my biggest woe comes from like the third part of the movie, where it's like, okay, Magneto switching sides, Storm switching sides, that's fine by me. But it's like Archangel was so underused in this movie, and I wanted to see more of him, and we really didn't. It's like he just disappeared. Him and like Psylocke, they just disappeared. I don't know what happened. Maybe I fell asleep, but my eyes were open the entire time. They just kind of disappeared. Again, I may have missed it. I may have blinked. I don't know. They kind of just disappeared. Jean Grey. God, Jean Grey has the Phoenix Force inside of her, and it's pretty much hinted at the very beginning of the movie. And I'm okay with that part, but just her fully showing the Phoenix coming out was too much of a push too fast for me. And that's just what took it down for me in this movie, is that we got that. Alright, back to what I was saying. The final like part of the movie really just kind of collapses in on itself. Somewhere it went wrong with the script. Whether that be the way they deal with Apocalypse, and I understand the Phoenix Force is like so powerful, this is how they deal with them, and it's kind of that like, oh, we're just going to deal with Apocalypse. I would have been a little more satisfied had if they just kind of like locked them back up kind of thing. Like, Xavier was already in his mind to the point that he probably could have done it, and he could have like, you know, I don't know, put him back to sleep or something. It's a comic book movie. You could just pull it out and say it. I'm sorry, it's true. Jean Grey disintegrating Apocalypse was kind of unbelievable. And I get it's a comic book movie. We just established that like a moment ago. My whole thing is just the way it played out didn't feel right for someone who is so powerful. He's pretty much Marvel's version, if you would. One of Marvel's versions of like Darkseid, because there's also Thanos who's up there. But Thanos has the glove. That's pretty much why. So I always say Apocalypse more because of the, you know, the mutant powers and whatnot. But I do have to say, overall, the movie wasn't bad. That post-credit scene felt really unneeded, and me sitting there for 5 minutes, no, scratch that. I left, went to the bathroom, came back, because I knew what it was, and seeing it with my own eyes pretty much cemented it. That post-credit scene was the worst post-credit scene we've had in a Marvel movie. And I'm sorry. The problem is that it sets up for Mr. Sinister because of the corporation, but there's two reasons that I say this. The Mystique thing where she was Stryker never got played out, it never resolved, never even brought up. You could have just mentioned one line of what happened, or just something, you know, she said something to like Nightcrawler, just something along the lines, so, you know, put it in that context. Oh, and there is one other major thing we'll be going over. And, but with Mr. Sinister, it's like you don't see him, you just see the corporation, and they take a Weapon X thing, and they seal it up, and it's supposed to hype you for the next movie. It's like, yeah, but you already said pretty much the next movie you want to do, like, the trilogy will be the Phoenix Saga, and that's going to take place in space, because you want to get a little more comic book accurate, so why even bother with Mr. Sinister? It should just be, the next three is like Mr. Sinister setting him up, but that's me being me. Biggest disappointment besides Apocalypse and everything else I mentioned, especially the William Stryker Wolverine thing, would probably be Jubilee as a whole. And it's not the actress, it's the fact that not once do you see her powers on screen. You can't just let her go sparkle. Look, we won the fight, let's sparkle. That could have been the post-credit scene. Everyone would have been satisfied. No, we're just going to throw it out the window. But by no means is it a great movie, and by no means is it a terrible movie. It's kind of mediocre. It's like in the middle. It's okay. It's okay for what it is. It's not the worst X-Men movie, but it sure as hell ain't the best. Because honestly, I still think the best would probably be X2 or Days of Future Past. One of those two, like somewhere over there. I don't know. I kind of like Days of Future Past a little bit more because they kind of tied in the terrible like part for what 3 was. Oh, and that one line that Jean Grey said in the movie did make me chuckle. They basically go to see Star Wars, and it was The Empire Strikes Back. I believe it was Empire Strikes... No. It was Return of the Jedi, because it was the third Star Wars movie. And she goes, well, at least we can all agree the third one will be the worst. And that's pretty much a nod to us that even Fox is acknowledging, hey, the third X-Men movie is like hot turd. You see that in 99-cent stores. It's that bad. So it's nowhere near as bad as that or Batman vs. Superman, because Batman vs. Superman's pace was 10 times worse than this movie. But we did get a UFC Nightcrawler versus Angel. That was pretty okay. It kind of set up for things, but I'm also a little disappointed. And this is just like I'm not knocking the movie for it. It's just something I personally want to see. I want to see the Four Horsemen ride horses. We didn't get that, and I know in a lot of the X-Men lore we don't get that. And a lot of the X-Men lore, going back to the original storylines of Apocalypse, uses different X-Men. Well, not X-Men. They use different mutants, and then sometimes they even use Wolverine. Sometimes, just like once. But honestly, there's just too much that's a letdown for me to really say it's an enjoyable movie. It's kind of a Rent. I feel like if I put a number to it, it would be close to 6.5 or 7. Just if you want a number. I want to get rid of number reviews and just go into that. Like, pretty much go see it or buy it and then rent it or pass on it. Pass would just be, it's so bad you don't need to ever see it. And that's not, this isn't up there. It's not that bad as many certain comic book YouTube channels will say. There's a certain one, I'm trying not to name names, I just saw the review and I'm like, how do you call that a review? So I'm trying to get into like every single thing there and pick it apart. The way that they had to do with Cerebro, and having Charles basically have Apocalypse come in, that was really well done, but there's too much eye candy and not enough context for certain story parts, and that's just my opinion. So don't hate me on my opinion. Feel free to share your opinion, because we're opinionated beings, in the comment section below. And I will see you guys on the next review. Sorry about that fan again. It's just too fucking hot here. It's like close to 90, and I just can't. I just can't. So I will see you on the next one. As always, thanks for watching. Until next time, peace.